It's Friday, and I'm back with the next in our Fanzine Friday series. Today we're starting a look at a new fanzine called the Palantir. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer, and this is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look. Today, it's the Palantir #1 from 1979, put together by David Brown and members of his gaming group, the Bristol and Avon Dungeons & Dragons Association. Hope you enjoyed the video. This week, we're going to take a look at a new fanzine called the Palantir. There were 6 of these produced, as far as I can tell. There's 6 at least that I have. It's the size we're used to. It's sort of a regular paper. This is light blue paper on the cover, folded in half. This one just has one staple through it. This one's a little different in that it's put out by a gaming group, not one particular person within the group. Like the guy David Brown, who signs the editorial introduction, doesn't appear to be the person responsible for a number of things in the second version of the fanzine. It's the Bristol and Avon Dungeons & Dragons Association. That's their gaming group. And so in their introduction, they make a point of saying they think their fanzine is unique because it's the product of a gaming group rather than a person or a couple of people. As they mentioned, it's going to be focused on Dungeons & Dragons, and just as they say, one more fanzine for the group, but they think they've got lots of interesting things to share. They do mention they're looking for people to both join their group, which will get you free copies of the fanzine and discounts to the events they're going to host, but they do take contributions from anybody whatsoever. They do not give any artist credit. They give credit for the articles, but not for the art. So I'm not sure. I would assume one of them has drawn this cover. I like it. It's one of these covers that I feel like maybe I could have drawn back in the day, right? It's got a crystal ball on a table there with a couple of dragons up in the corners, and their Old English, hand-drawn Old English style wording for the Palantir. The table contents is fairly short. This fanzine's fairly short. It's only about 15, 16 pages, depending on whether you're counting the cover. Has that editorial, as I mentioned, forthcoming attractions, which we'll talk about some things that they're doing, new monsters, a new character class, an adventure called the Lair of Matrecles, I don't know, probably mispronouncing, an article on swords, like more sort of a historical discussion about how swords developed over time, suggestions for playing D&D, which is probably the best article here, and then the treasure chest, which are new magical items, which are pretty entertaining as well. I've listed the folks who do the contributions. These are all members of their gaming group: David Brown, Nigel Steel, D. Brown, Byron Betts, J. Phillips, and Steve Gailor. So this is coming attractions. So the first thing is they have a contest they want to tell you about. So this is actually really clever. So here's the task. You're an assassin disguised as a druid in a party of 3 fighters, one of whom's a paladin, 1 magic user, 1 cleric, and a thief. You're discovered by the rest of the party standing over the dead body of the magic user with a blood-stained scimitar in your hands. How would you try to get out of it? And you write in your answer, 60 words or less, which is fairly short. And they say, basically, we want to encourage people to think about role-playing games in situations, not just hack and slash. What would you do to try and get out of the situation other than just fight? And then they're going to give you a prize, which is a Rodney Matthews calendar. I'm not sure what that is, but it's signed. And the second prize is a card from Rodney Matthews. And then they'll give you some, they'll publish all the best 4 entries in the next fanzine. So that's pretty cool. And then here at the bottom is their advertisement for Bacon, or BA-Con. I'm not sure which way they're saying it, but that's the Bristol and Avon D&D Association's mini-con that they're going to hold in Bristol. So I like the art, and I like the fact that they called it Bacon. Okay, so we have new monsters. As you know, I always say you can never have too many monsters. Some of these are very creative. So we have the Dragon, and basically they're 7-foot tall creatures that will basically, they say, will try to grab the party members, throttle them, rendering them unable to drop their weapons and unable to fight back, and then they'll take them in front of their leader, who will read them bad poetry. And they may give you a choice of getting continually throttled versus hearing the poetry, but probably sooner or later you listen to the poetry, which will inevitably be very bad. And they say so bad you'll become sick. I'm not sure if that seems a little much. And if you don't flatter the person, the leader who read you the poetry, you get throttled again. So a little silly. Next we have the viles or vials, large humanoids that have ape-like arms, no eyes, and an extremely developed sense of smell. So no hiding, no invisibility is useful against them. And they have a type of rune magic, so if they can get 5 of them together, they'll form up and they'll have a lore master who can channel their power, which will be a 24 hit point monster. I don't know if they mean hit points, I guess, yeah, not hit dice. And he carries like a wand that he's created, and for every 5 of them, they can use 1 level spell. So if there's 10 of them together concentrating, they can use a 2nd level spell and so forth. But only the lore master can channel that and cast it at you. So the next monster here is the Wiggle. It's a 2-inch long worm that is boring through multi-dimensional space. That's a little odd. But basically what that means is no matter what your armor class is, they bore, unless you have magical armor, they're going to bore right through you. No worries about trying to hit or anything else if you get in their way. So when you see them, basically, just the smart person would get out of their way, but you don't know what they are the first time you see them. If you can do 3, so they always have 8 hit points. If you can do 3 times their hit points in 1 strike, you kill them. Otherwise, they just break in half, and now you have 2 wiggles instead of 1. 1 to 5 are encountered in a dungeon, 10 to 200 in the wilderness. But basically, it's just a unexpected monster that they have to try and figure out what to do, and the best thing to do is just get away from it. And then the last thing that they have here is the winged bobcat, which is basically a cat with wings, and it just does normal damage, and so that one's not particularly creative. Next we have the character class, the mutant, and it's a little silly, but I like it nonetheless. And so basically they say some weird magic was cast on the mother when the child was in the womb, polymorph or a curse or something, and come out and you're mutated. So when you're mutated, maximum or your minimum strength of 12, minimum constitution of 14, maximum wisdom and dexterity of 9, maximum charisma of 6. And so you basically can be a fighter magic user, or it says you can triple class. But of course you can't be a thief and you can't be a cleric, so I'm not sure what the triple class would be. Maybe I'd have to go back through my player's handbook and look to see what the other options are. But basically be a fighter magic user. And then you've got this, you roll d12 to find out what's wrong with you, your mutation. You can have 1 less arm, you can have 1 more arm, 1 more leg, 1 less leg, 1 more eye, 1 less, different skin coloration, fur, a growth on your back, cloven feet, 1 huge ear, or a 6-inch long hooked nose. And you roll d4 to find out how many of these mutations you have. And so they answer the burning question, which is, what if one of my rolls is +1 arm and one of my rolls is -1 arm? And what they say is, well, the -1 means on one side your arm's gone. And so the +1, you can have 2 arms on the same side of your body, or you can have one sticking out of your chest or out of your back. Same thing would be the case with the legs and the eyes. And then the only other thing about them is, as they go up 1,500 experience points per level, and doubles 3,000, 6,000, 12,000. And then at first, for whatever reason, when you're first level, you get a +4 in reactions from sort of like being pathetic. 2nd level, you get a +2 in your reactions. 3rd level, normal. Then -2, then -4, and so on. Reaction rolls get worse and worse as you become a more powerful mutant. So it's very creative. Never seen anything like that before. And the illustration down here at the bottom, they're quick to point out to you, has mutations 9, 10, and 11. Growth on the back, huge ear, and cloven feet. So there's a character class you've never heard of before. Whoops. The Lair of Metrusles, or whatever his name is a thief who's he's done some things. People apparently know it was him, but he got away, and so he's in great fear of being caught, and he's got this little hideout that he's built that you'd come upon, and either you're there after him or you just stumble on it, but in any event, he's got it trapped, and he's got some henchmen in there, and he's trying to get away from you. And it's pretty well done. Here's the very simple map for you. Everything about it sort of thought out, makes sense. He's got, like I said, he has some traps, he has some henchmen, and it's a nice little diversion. Clearly, it's not even a one night session, unless you had a short session. Nonetheless, I think it's pretty well done. Then we have this. I want to show you the art here, pretty well done. This is Brian Bett's article, and it's just a historical discussion about different types of swords that developed when and why, to overcome certain types of armor based on certain types of combat over time. And then we have a really good article on playing Dungeons and Dragons, and it's basically an experienced dungeon master / player's suggestion. Here's some simple things you need. What do you need to take with you when you go adventuring, right? And he says people always make the mistake, they're over encumbered, as he says, so you can't get away because you're too slow. Or you take things you don't need and you don't have enough room to bring out the treasure. And so his number one rule is you'd better be able to get away. If you can't, he said, you're going to go through a lot of characters. So here's every party must have a mule and 3 saddlebags to carry. And he points out, when I played, we never did this, but he's like, a mule can pretty much go wherever your characters go in the dungeon, unless it goes, straight down a shaft or something like that. Even then, I think you could break up a pulley and lower it. But anyway, take the mule to carry your treasure. 2 bottles of oil per person. That depends on whether or not in your campaign they can be used to burn things. But I think in a lot of campaigns, you throw oil and burn monsters and stuff. 30 iron spikes, obvious reasons. A mallet to drive the spikes. At least 2 50-foot long lengths of rope. 30 or more torches. This guy's DM was clearly keeping track of torches burning down in their campaign. And like he said, you don't want to get stuck down the middle there in the dark. A tinder box to light the torches. 2 pens and 2 pieces of parchment. So in case the person making the map gets killed, you can justify that you've got someone else who's making a copy, and you won't. He said in his campaign, if the guy who's making the map gets killed, like in a room and the party had to run away, the DM would take the map, and then the characters have no idea, how to get back out in his campaign. So anyway, it's very good. And then he has a second page with class specific, just the main classes. And he's like, fighters, chainmail and shield. You can't have anything more than chainmail. It's too heavy, basically. And he says you got the shield for a little extra protection. Short swords because of narrow dungeons. Short bow for distance. 20 arrows, 18 normal, 2 silver. Right? He says don't forget that. And a helmet to protect your head. Clerics, also chainmail. Footman's mace. He says flail's nice, but can get tangled if your DM, would try to inject that realism. So use the mace so it doesn't get tangled up. Holy water and your holy relic, holy symbol. Magic users obviously no armor, so he's like, you basically carry daggers, including 1 silver dagger. And as he says, you're better off giving that to somebody else if it comes to melee combat, but at least you have it. He makes the magic user carry the 10-foot pole for pit trap checking, and a backpack because he says he's carrying the least amount so far. And the thieves' leather armor, obviously, because otherwise you can't be silent and have penalties on your thieving skills. Thieves' tools, daggers, short bow, and a weapon. I would assume you'd take a short sword or a spear. Although I might have to go back and look and see what restrictions are on a thief. Although this is 78, so this is before we have AD&D, right? Maybe this is the same year we get the player's handbook, so maybe they had it. Because this is, I didn't mention to you that contest, the deadline was, I think, November of 79. So this fanzine comes out somewhere in the fall of 79. Okay. Anyway, this is a really good article. Very thoughtful, actually very good practical advice for games. Now here's our fun list, Steve Gailor's list of magical items. Potion of the Midas Touch. I love this. For 1d6 rounds, everything you touch turns to gold. Touch your sword, touch your armor, touch your friend. Everything turns to gold. People get a saving throw versus petrification. And like you said, it's good and bad, right? Like, oh, look, your entire set of chainmail or plate mail just turned to gold, which is going to make it really valuable, but also not give you very good protection. So I love now, most of my players don't drink potions. They don't know what they are, but if you got a party who likes to experiment, this would be a really fun one. Eyes of Protection look like our Eyes of Charming and basically give you 90% resistance to any type of gaze attack. The basilisk, Medusa, whatever. As well as any visual-based spells like color spray. and a 10% chance that a gaze attack is reflected back on the attacker. The cell of containment, this is a great one. It's basically like a little box the size of a matchbook, and if you touch it on anyone who's sleeping, unconscious, or dead, they shrink down and go in and instantly are sort of placed inside the box, and then the box is shut, and they're in like a stasis, so permanently, like no time passes for them. They can't wake up. Like they say, if you put a dead party member in there, then they won't decompose. Well, it takes you time to get back to town, and so the resurrection or whatever might work better too. Maybe even heal them if they're just barely past in the negatives. Anyway, then we have two good cursed items. Rotting leather armor, so it gives off a magic aura. It's leather armor. You can't figure out why, but you're like, oh, it gives off magic aura, so I'll wear it. First attack takes more than 4 points of damage, it falls apart. They have similar plate mail armor, takes 6 points of damage, it falls apart, which I love those two things. The illusionist wand has a little dragon head at the end and casts an illusion of flames, lightning, or poisonous cloud. It does 66 damage. If a magic user uses it, his mechanic is 25 minus the victim's intelligence. They roll a d20. If they get over that number, they can tell it's an illusion. They don't take any damage. If an illusionist does it, it's a save versus wands, but only for half damage. So the illusionist can use it obviously better. So pretty good. Ring of Vulnerability, -1 to -5, is basically a cursed ring of protection. Helm of Commanding, I think he does 1 to 50. I might lower that upper number, but it basically allows you to cast a command spell, and it's improved over the spell in the spell book. So 6 hit dice or less are affected with no save. 9 hit dice get a saving throw. Chaotic evil creatures can't use it because I guess it's based on sort of order. I guess that's the theory. And they'll take damage if they touch it. And if a cleric or paladin wears this helmet, they can also use the command against undead, which normally you could not. Nistel's magic aura, and he says just pick anything: ring, sword, armor, shield, wands. And so whatever it is totally worthless, but has this permanent magic aura on there, so you detect magic, you think it's worth something, and you waste your time on it. And then he has the Teach Yourself language books, which would be for a particular language, and as long as you have the intelligence to learn more languages, if your character takes the time to read this, he doesn't say exactly how long that takes, but then you can learn a new language just by reading it. The sleeping ring, you put it on, it's a cursed item, you put it on, you go to sleep. Can't get it off without a remove curse or a limited wish. I would also say, or cut off the finger, because that's how I guess I run my games. You want to, in permanent disfigurement, you get the cursed item off. Sword of Thievery is a -1 sword, but I would call it more of the cowardly thief, because it does give you an extra 10% chance hiding in shadows. I would probably even maybe make it better at moving silently, because it's -1 to hit. It's -2. It's actually -3 to hit if you try to backstab. So this curse does not want anywhere near combat. The cursed snake staff looks like the kind of staff you could turn into a snake, but when you do, the snake will always attack the person who made the transformation. So obviously cursed as well. Then he also has a spell, Drunkenness, which essentially does exactly what you think it would do. But one segment, level 1, if you fail your saving throw, and then you roll 2d6 to determine whether you only a little bit tipsy, so you can attack with normal, get a negative, you start falling over, go off singing, ignoring the potential combat, etc. And then the dreaded Nodding Boars. This one I don't hate. So this is going to be a ring of tall, thin, bald, probably men, sitting in a circle, chanting. And if you watch them for 2 or more rounds, then you make a save versus magic, or you'll automatically fall asleep. So that could affect the entire party. If that happens, if everyone falls asleep, they'll basically rob the party. They'll take your coins and one of your magic items. They won't take more than that. They're not, horrible people. If they're ever threatened with combat, apparently they have innate teleportation ability, and they just teleport away. I don't think that's horrible. It's a sort of different thing for you to come upon. That's it for the Palantir number 1. As I mentioned, there are 6 of these. We'll take a look at these over the next month and a half. and like early days, right? So 79, 80. And I'm looking forward to talking more about these with you in the coming weeks. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you're subscribed, and I hope you'll send your friends this way. If you think they'll like our content, maybe they can subscribe as well. Have a great weekend, and hope you get a chance to play with your friends, some role-playing games or whatever it is that you guys enjoy at this point. And until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.